Here I am sitting with my brother Yakov. Yakov, welcome.
Thanks. It's good to be here with you, Yehuda.
Today we're going to be exploring where we are in history and what it means to be at this very interesting transitional stage where we're coming from the past, we're coming from the tradition, we're coming from years of human history, but yet something very big is happening on all levels, technological, consciousness levels, even the Jewish return to Israel. There's so much that's changing and that's transforming. And we want to explore that. Like, what does it mean to us on a personal level? How do we kind of position ourselves at this time of history and how do we work with it? So just to kick us off, how do you see us in human history? Like, where are we now and what does it look like to you?
Well, I like to zoom out and see the bigger picture, see where we are at this stage in the world. I often think about how most of human history was pretty much the same. People lived in a constant struggle, food, clothing, shelter, just trying to live in the same way that people lived for thousands of years, up until about 150 years ago. You know, we kind of take for granted the world we live in with all of its comforts and modern amenities and the life we live, but it wasn't always like this. Especially when I think about when I learned Gemara, when I learned Talmud, and you see all the concepts that are spoken about, just practical concepts of agriculture and animals and things that are being done in regular life. And I had a hard time relating to it. Wait, how do plows work? How do animals, these different things? And we don't live in that world anymore. It's completely different. It all changed like 150 years ago with the technological revolution and with the opening of wisdom, science, the advances that we have. We're suddenly in a new world where we're hurtling forward at warp speed and things are completely different. And not taking that for granted and being aware of where we are, the Jewish people returning to the land of Israel after 2,000 years, something that's completely unheard of in human history. So just to be aware of that already shifts our perspective. We're not just living our life, but we're living at a very special time in history.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I've noticed that if you go back like 400 years and you went into a shtetl, what do you see? You see just a bunch of people walking around. You have tailors, you have farmers, you have shoemakers, and you go back 1,000 years, you have the same thing, right? They kind of probably pretty much look the same. If you go back to that same village, you're going to see the same mud roads. You know, maybe they redid a road and they did some cobblestone down the main street, but you're dealing with the same things. And yet here we're living in a world where it almost feels like 10, 15 years ago was a different world than what we're living in now. And it's changing so fast. But what does that mean? What does that mean that it's changing fast? Like, do you see a bigger story in this change, in this growth?
So that's a question I ask myself all the time. What is the point of this? Where's the world going? Are we headed somewhere awesome or are we headed to a cliff? And as a Jew who's started out, we grew up in New York, Muncie, and then we made our way to the Holy Land together with Jews from every corner of the world. And suddenly you say to yourself, is there something greater that we're meant to be doing? Is there a mission here? One of the thoughts I have often is about the role of Jews from every specific country in the world. Right? We all come from different places, and we're all bringing unique cultural and religious experiences and practices. And we're coming back to the land, and we're suddenly in this melting pot. And the word melting pot is definitely very relevant to me and to you as American Jews. We come from the original, and the great melting pot. And what are we bringing here? What is our personal communal mission in this ingathering of the exiles and this moving forward to a new era?
Yeah. By the way, you mentioned before that coming back to Israel, to me, is a bigger miracle than even Sinai. You know, Sinai was a talk of a revelation of God to a people. And yeah, the Jewish, claim of a revelation of God is very unique. That a whole nation, a whole group of people, a large group of people saw God and experienced God. And for us, even though many religions and cultures talk about that, the Enlightenment, the great master that went up the mountain and was able to achieve a deep level of enlightenment and bring it back to the people, that's something that's happened. But it is very unique in all of history for a nation to have left its homeland for 2,000 years and then to return back home. And clearly, this is the fulfillment. I mean, the prophecies of all the prophets spoke about this. That was, all the recorded prophecies were really seemed to be for now, for this time of transition, time of change. Like the famous prophecy of Umala haaretz dea es Hashem kamayim layam achasim. The world will be filled with knowledge of God, just like the sea covers the riverbed. And the truth is that we're living in a time of so much of an influx of knowledge, of so much technology, of so much insight, and a lot of God awareness that's happening in this time. And it does seem like we're going through a tremendous shift, and we are going somewhere. And I like the fact that you're hopeful. And I believe that that's a key element of a belief in a higher force, a belief in the divine, that there is something that's happening. There's something that's unfolding.
Well, part of our basic foundation as Jews is that we believe the world is here for a purpose. It's going somewhere. It's not just going along forever. It started somewhere, and if there's a start, that means there's a goal, there's a focus, there's a drive to get somewhere. I mean, let's just cut to the chase. We're talking about the times of Mashiach, the times of Messiah, Yemos HaMashiach. We're talking about a utopian vision for the world that we believe in. That's one of the most foundational aspects of our Judaism.
Okay, what is that vision? What does it look like to you? What does the Messianic vision look like to you? Is that a world of just the Jewish people? How do the nations in the world fit into that?
Well, Rabbi Natan of Breslov, he talked about Nasan, Breslov. He talked about there's a global Messianic era, but there's also a personal Messiah, that every person needs to have their own redemptive process, and it really goes together. When everyone is involved in their personal redemptive process, and that creates a global redemptive process. And I believe Yemos HaMashiach, the times of Messiah, is when every person is going to be able to fulfill their true potential, their real potential, their greatest potential. When you look at yourself, you have the poster of yourself, like the image, who am I? Who's the best Yakov Raice possible? And when everyone is able to envision that and then move towards attaining that to me it's a little bit of Yemos HaMashiach. It's a little bit of Messianic era.
Yeah, imagine if one morning everybody woke up just on the right side of the bed and everybody did the right thing. Imagine what it's like suddenly you walk down the street and everybody's smiling at everybody else. And everybody's opening up that space for people to be their best selves. That would be an amazing world. And I think that's a piece of the redemption, a piece of the vision of what the ideal looks like. But I don't know if that's all of it. I mean, I think that there's something that, like, let's say we went back 600 years and we see a Jew living in the shtetl. I don't like what was his mission and what is it to what is my mission to me? I think that in my perspective, like a Jew living back then, he's keeping it going. He's carrying the tradition. In a way, he's just like, maybe it's small-minded of me, but in a way, it's kind of like he's moving the ball one step forward, passing the tradition on to his children, moving it along, doing little actions that kind of, add a little piece of the puzzle. But I don't know if they necessarily saw what we're seeing. For example, in the prayers that we do 3 times daily, we call it the Shemona Esrei. There are so many references to redemptive processes throughout the whole thing that we mention all the time, and we're always talking like the return to Jerusalem and a rebuilding of Torah in Israel, and all of these different redemptive processes that we talk about. And many of the the great commentaries and scholars of years past, they ask the question, how do we pray all the time talking about these things that we're not seeing it happen? We're not seeing Zion being rebuilt. They're not seeing, the return of the exiles. And they had to deal with these questions because people had a hard time. How am I supposed to go in, day out, moving the ball, one step forward, but I'm not seeing a first down. I'm just seeing a couple yards, but you can't even really see that movement. Whereas, and when I looked at that, it hit me so hard because I was like, their question isn't a question for me, because here I am, I'm praying, and when I read these words, I can go out into the streets and I see the construction companies that are literally rebuilding the land. We've come back to our country and it's exploding. Where Israel is this young little country, yet it's at the forefront of the world technologically, in the world of computers and in the world of so much.
Can we bring it down a level?
Oh, please.
I mean, to me, the greatest example of that we're in a redemptive Messianic era is the amount of quality craft beers that are in this country right now.
Yeah, it's true.
So when I first came to Israel 25 years ago, there's like imported beers. There's like Carlsberg and Tuborg.
Right, and Gold Star from Israel.
Yeah, and Gold Star. And now there's like just microbreweries popping up like mushrooms after the rain everywhere. You guys, 50 kinds of beer. Anyway, but just on one level. But like it says in the Talmud, the greatest sign, the clearest sign of the redemption is when the land of Israel bears fruits for the Jewish people. This land was desolate for so long, and now it's a flourishing place.
Yeah, I actually listened to Mark Twain's audiobook. Right, Mark Twain came to Israel. He was The
Innocents Abroad.
Yeah, he was this great writer, and he's like, listen, you're going to support me. You're going to pay for my trip to Israel. And he came and he mapped out so many interesting things and talking about what it looked like. And he's funny and it's interesting, but also a lot of it was cynical a little bit about like, this is the land, like it's kind of a dump.
Yeah, the way he describes it, it's mind-blowing when you walk around now and you think, and you listen to the way he describes just emptiness, desolation, a couple of brown hills and as far as the eye can see, and just a couple of stunted shrubs here and there.
Yeah, he mentions he walked around Jerusalem in one afternoon, like the outskirts. Like now, Jerusalem is huge. There's no way to walk around it. I mean, I don't know how long it would take to hike around the whole Jerusalem, but it's so rebuilt. There's even a Talmudic text that says, in the times of the Messiah, there's going to be Israel's going to be 3 times the size. So it asks, well, what kind of 3 times the size? Is it going to be 3 times larger, like the footprint, or is it going to be built up? And it goes like, really, how many stories can you build up? He goes, well, you could build multiple stories up, right? And they had only seemingly their perceptions was like, okay, you can build 3 stories, 4 stories, a big building. Right now, you go into Jerusalem, and both of those, there's this line, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim, right? All like when there's an argument in the Talmud that you have all the different understandings or perceptions, they're both true, and we see that like the footprint of Jerusalem is huge. And the rebuilding, you have huge buildings going up in Jerusalem.
But to get back to the point,
yeah.
Okay, so Jerusalem is being built and the people are in the land of Israel, but what's the point of it all? Is it just for us? Okay, it's a great story. We're back in Israel. We're building a flourishing society, high-tech, military, yada, yada, all this advancement, but is it just for us, or is this a global thing? I mean, when you think about what do Jewish people want? What do I want for the world? I want everyone to have the best life possible. I want every human being to be able to really live and express themselves. We only want good. I mean, as a nation, we only want good. I love watching travel blogs. People travel around the world, but I especially love when people come to Israel and they're blown away just by the society that's here. And what blows them away the most is how welcome they are. People come and they're so friendly. They want the best for everybody. Doesn't matter where you come from in the world. When you come to Israel, the people here, they want you to enjoy. They want you to feel good. We really want the best for everybody. And ultimately, it's so simple. Messianic era means the best for everybody. The best life, the most ability to accomplish whatever it is that you want. But what is that? And do people even have an idea of what is the best life that can possibly live?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. For me, it's interesting. Like, when you think about the best life, obviously the first thing that comes up, maybe it's not so obvious, but for me, the first thing that comes up is like, okay, physical comforts, financially stable. And it's interesting. I just heard Elon Musk, made some kind of prediction in the next, X number of years. I don't know if it was 20 or 50. He goes, we're not going to even need money anymore. Like, we're going to a place where the physical comforts are so open and easily accessible to everybody. I know when I take a shower, I laugh at myself. I go into the shower and I turn it on and I get that hot water coursing, and you can choose exactly the temperature you want, and you have great pressure. And I stand there smirking at myself going, a king from the dark ages, what he would trade to have my apartment. And, like here I am, like, his beautiful castle, but everything smells like smoke, because to keep everything warm, you have to have fires burning, you're cooking. And here we are, you want to have a bath drawn for you. I mean, baths are great, but I like a bath after I took my shower, because I like to be clean. I don't want to go in there with all my dirt. I don't know, maybe they went from one bath to the next, to clean up. Like, you get the first level of dirt off. But when you're in that shower and you go, wow, like, how did we even get here? This is so wonderful. We have so much goodness, and that's expanding. But then it opens up, and I know for myself, it's like, well, there's more to being a human than just the comforts. Life is not forever. Life is short. And there's something that we're here for. There's a purpose. There's a mission. There's something that's unfolding. And I think we want to tap into that. People around the world are seeing, as with all the movements that's happening, politically, militarily, like, there's so much shifting going on. I think there's another perspective of looking internally and saying, what is it that we're really looking for? What does it really mean to be human? What does it mean to be me? And what am I really here for? What does that really look like? So what does it look like for you? Like, what do you think is our dream of aligned humanity?
Well, one thing is that every person has something unique to share. There are some people are artists, some people are scholars. We all have something that we want to bring out into the world that's uniquely ours. I mean, God made the world, and he made us a space for each of us. He made a space for humanity. We talk about God, he, so to speak, the tzimtzum, he removed himself in a major way. Why? Because he wanted to give space for other. So not just other as in humanity as a mass, but also for each individual person. There should be a space for you and I and every other person to express, to really live. And for each person, people need to ask themselves, well, what can I do in the world that would express myself to the max and also be of the greatest benefit to everybody around me? That's a question, I think, that really hits deep, because with all the advance in technology and the world that's being created and all the room that there is for people to, if you have meaning, if you have a goal in life, then you're going to fill that void with study, with deeper understanding the world better, understanding myself better, meditation, learning how to be a spiritual person, how to connect to God better, how to connect to others better, how to better my relationships with people. There's so many avenues to explore in a spiritual side to expand who I am in a meaningful way. But then there's also so much room that we know that when people don't have anything to do, they end up being often self-destructive. So
Yeah.
I feel like a part of my personal mission, a part of the Jewish people's mission in the world, is to fill that, what can be a potentially devastating emptiness, with meaning.
Yeah.
And meaning ultimately means connecting to God. And what does God want for the world? What does God want us to give? I feel like we're talking around and around, but it's a huge subject. It's almost scary to dive into what does that mean? Just to create a space first. There is this space, there is this openness for us to fill.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw the question back at you, because I don't have a pithy answer for this, but
It is a good question. I think that ultimately, at least for me in my journey, part of my personal purpose and has been to help to explore what does it mean to really be a human? What does it really be to, the way the Torah calls it, Adam? And according to Jewish thought, we are all Adam. We are all that first man. We're broken into many different parts and many different pieces. And each one of us is a little piece of that part, but we're all Adam. And I think that as Adam, as pieces of Adam, we're not just put in this world just to be experiencing reality. I think that that's a piece of it. But I think that we're put into this world to be God's counterpart. And I think that that's at the epitome of prayer. The epitome of prayer is when a human being is walking forward in this world. You can imagine Adam in the Garden of Eden just walking around and seeing, wow, look at these plants, look at the world, look how beautiful it is. And at some point he pauses and he turns around and he looks back and suddenly he sees, hey, there's a creator. There's God looking at me and I'm looking at him. And ultimately, I think that what God was looking for from us and what we're looking back at him, and this is from, obviously this is not my idea, it's from the masters, that moment when we realize, oh my gosh, God, you're really here. And you want me to have a relationship with you. And that relationship comes from experiencing this world and developing the world and doing good things, but it also comes from developing the higher parts of what it means to be Adam. And in this time with technology, things are opening up where we no longer need to be focused so often on all the details of getting food on the table. And as we have, more affluence and more openness and more potential, that opens up for us and we're able to say, okay, so what does it mean to be on a higher level of humanity? What does it mean to be the deeper human or the more aligned person, connecting the spiritual energies with the physical? And how do I shine God into this world? And how do I have that relationship with God become more manifest in this world? And I know at the core of this redemptive consciousness, we're looking at a relationship with God that is more open. We believe that Jerusalem is like the center of the world. I mean, clearly, it almost seems like all humanity sees that Jerusalem is the center of the world. I mean, everybody's fighting over it. But what does it mean that it's the center of the world? It's the center of alignment between heaven and earth, where when I step into Jerusalem, my heaven, my earth connect. My ideals, my deepest visions for reality connect with my physical lived experience. And that opens me up to I guess, achieving our purpose, achieving our ultimate dreams of alignment. And I think that part of this whole technological revolution that we're going through has really given us a question that kind of puts it on the precipice. On the one side, we can end up just becoming more lost in ourselves, right? Like the CEO of Netflix. I asked him, like, who's your biggest competition? And he said, sleep. Right. And because we just want people to be entertained all the time, just constantly, like just feed them. And you get into this place. And so you're just watching Netflix, ordering, food that's coming to your door. And I can just become isolated into my lowest part of myself, literally just becoming animalistic, the lowest part of myself once again, and just feeding all of my desires and pleasures on the lowest level. On the other hand, this technology also opens us up to be able to say, like, I have time to explore and to connect to deeper truths. How do I open that up? And now I have the ability to access the greatest minds in the world. I can listen to the best teachers in the world that can teach me, from meditation and spirituality to understanding myself, the therapist, it's all open. And in a way, we are offered the opportunity to be the human that we want to be that was never offered before. 1,000 years ago, all you could really do, you have really limited. But now with one little device in our hand, we have so much power and so much freedom to choose.
And yet I use it to look at pictures of cats.
Exactly. And we have that option. By the way, I think it's interesting with artificial intelligence. Like there's a big fear. Like, is artificial intelligence just going to take over everything? So many people are worried about losing their jobs. And the question really is that, yeah, if I'm just going to be the same me that I was yesterday, I might suddenly be left struggling with what to fill my time with. But if I realize that these are opportunities that are given me, and that all of this transition is opening us up for something new, there's something new that's birthing, then maybe I can birth to a new reality. Maybe I can open up deeper parts of myself that I never knew that were there, and I can open up new skills, new talents, new essential parts of myself that have been hidden.
Yeah, and there's not one answer because it's a staged growth. I mean, first of all, at the same time as we have to open up to spiritual awakening and to understanding ourselves, we also then have to deal with all the trauma that's been built up over thousands of years. Speaking as a Jew, I can say that we constantly are living with the trauma of the history of the Jewish people. And maybe in the past we didn't have time to deal with it. And so, you were busy with the struggle for survival. Like I didn't really have time to deal with my psyche or my issues.
Yeah.
And now suddenly we have that time. So the stage growth. First of all, we have the time now, we have the technology, we have the wisdom, we have the science, we have the opportunity to help people get out of where they're stuck in their animalistic self. We call the nefesh habahamis, the animal soul. And that's step one, because we're so caught up in that. So there's spiritual growth and there's psychological help, and suddenly there's therapy is suddenly not a dirty word anymore. People can go to therapy and be proud of it. I'm healing myself. And that's stage one. And then the next stage
is expanding. Yeah, we could just continue expanding our growth.
The Gemara says, the Talmud says that in the Messianic era, bread is going to grow on trees. And I always wonder, bread is going to grow on trees? But with AI, basically the bread, it's going to come to us as if it grew on a tree. Eventually, the entire process will be automated and the food will come to us. We won't need to have people farming and dealing with all of that.
Yeah. And I think that's a scary question, because the scary question is are we going to birth to a new reality? Are we going to become, it's interesting, the AI, I like to think of it like, is the AI the original snake in the Garden of Eden? Or is it, some kind of messianic element? It's interesting that in Hebrew, the word nachash, which means the snake, actually is the same numerical value as Mashiach. Messiah. And if you look back at, like the way the greatest masters spoke about the snake was originally intended to be a servant for humanity. It was meant to be this helper. So even, there's one midrashic tale about how, Adam had two snakes. One snake would be able to go around the world collecting things for him, whatever he needed. And the other snake would be there as his personal attendant. And I kind of feel like that we have that with AI right now, right? Like whereas somebody who's, maybe limited in certain areas, you can take your ideas and speak it into AI, transcribe it, play with it, feed it back, add a little more, and you can literally develop the tool that you want. Even to the point, on a basic level, like most people use AI just by jumping on and asking it a question. But you can get AI to actually respond better. Like I told my kids, like one of my kids was like, I was having a tough day, and I asked, one of the AI bots to, what should I do in this situation? So I turned to him, I said, that's really great. But now you're just getting the regular AI that everybody else in the world's getting. I said, but if you really want, you first turn to your AI and say, imagine if I wanted to ask a question to 5 of the greatest thinkers of today. Who would you say they are? Or maybe you want to throw in a bunch of Jewish thinkers in there as well. Give me the list of them. And then choose 5 people that you've listened to that really spoke to you, and say, okay, AI, I want you to act as, Jordan Peterson, Ramosha Weinberger, like, I don't know, whoever your people are that you want to listen to. And now tell me, what would they say in this situation? And suddenly you're getting a really amazing cut. And your AI, depending on how much you can learn how to engage with it, it can actually be a better attendant for you. And I think that's also what happened in the Garden of Eden. I think the snake, maybe it's a more expanded idea, but I think in some ways the snake was trying to be a stimulus for us to really hit what we needed to hit. And even though he said, why don't you go eat from that tree? And so it's a stimulus. It's asking a question. It's asking a core question. Sometimes those questions can break us, like the snake did. And we broke. We ended up sinning, eating from the tree, and making the mistake. But sometimes those core questions that are so scary and so dangerous actually open us up to new realities. And right now, on some level, I think there's many comparisons between the snake and AI. But I think one of the things is that it's pushing us to ask this question and saying, who are you really? What's the real value of a human? What does it mean to be human? Who are you, and what is your AI tool? If really I'm not better than my AI tool, then there's no difference.
Right. Well, AI in a lot of ways is really a reflection of who you are, because we know it's going to give you the answers that you want. It knows you once you interact with it a little bit. It also knows, what else you've been doing, online, and it's going to give you what you want. The question is, though, is it maybe a little bit more of the tree of knowledge of good and evil? Because, it'll spit stuff back to you, but is it good? Is it evil? Is it true? How do you know what it is? When you come at it with, I have certain principles that I believe in. I have a certain beliefs and the way that I live. And now I'm going to use this as a tool. Like physicality, AI, it's just a reflection. It's a reflection of us. It's a reflection of our physicality. Maybe not so much our spirituality, because that is something that we need to feed it. And we need to have a better awareness of what are my principles, what are my values, and then reflect back to me how is that going to relate in different situations? How's that going to relate back through the physical? I mean, you think about, I'm a soul, I have a physical body. Adam was Adam, and then there was this kind of externalized servant / representation of the potential evil of physicality as embodied by the snake, which then entered him, and now suddenly it was a confusing situation. So who am I, and how do I relate to the world? But the more we externalize it and put all of the human wisdom and all of human ideas, it comes externalized again into the cloud, so to speak. So is it going to be that physicality is what we get sucked into, and it becomes, like you said, what provides us the entertainment, and what we become slaves to it? Or is it going to be serving us and helping us advance?
Birth to a new level of consciousness, open up new dimensions of possibility. So to close, we're standing right now with all of this technological advancements and all the movement that's happening around right now. Where do you see this going? Like as a Jew with your beliefs, your personal view, what do you see happening? What do you see as this Messianic process, redemptive process?
It's the opening of possibilities beyond what we are able to imagine right now. We can imagine healing in so many ways, physically, emotionally, mentally. You can imagine healing processes that have started already and are continuing. But where we're going is something that I am looking forward to exploring with you over the life of this podcast and moving forward. What can we open up? What are the possibilities? How can we manifest in this new world, this new
reality?
New reality.
Yeah. And amen, first of all, big amen. And I think that just like that baby in the womb that goes through 9 months of pregnancy, I feel like humanity, in a way we've been in a womb and we've been growing and developing. And maybe we need to see what are those things that have developed, because we really are about to make a big transition. And I believe that our hope, and I believe that the consciousness of humanity, if we can all hope for a better time, and dream for that better time can actually bring that to a smooth birth, a clean birth, a healthy birth, and a sweet one for everyone. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Yakov. This was amazing. And look forward to joining you again on this journey.
As we like to say, l'chaim.
L'chaim.